Have you ever wondered what we as agents look at when we are looking on MLS? And have you ever wondered what might be a really great house that an agent's perspective might be able to share with you? Well, today I'm going to go right into our MLS and I'm going to show you some tips from a seller standpoint as well as from a buyer standpoint. And we're going to pull up several houses and we're going to hone in on one suburb. And we're going to hone in on one specific floor plan. This is my favorite floor plan, and I love being able to compare this floor plan to various areas of Kansas City. And I love being able to shine forth that so that you can see what's out there. Hi, my name is Anita Cordell, and I do videos about all things Kansas City, whether it's showing you places to eat at, whether it's showing you where the best places to live at, some statistics, some floor plans, and all the things around there. I'm also a licensed real estate agent, and I help people just like you buy, sell, relocate, and invest right here in our amazing city. And today we are going to be talking about the city of Blue Springs and why that might be important to you, because you might actually be looking at the floor plan of story and a half and not really for sure all of the details about story and a halves, but I honed in on looking at and shining forth my favorite floor plan, which is a story and a half, and looking specifically at the city of Blue Springs. And what I've done is I have pulled up in my MLS several different addresses for us to look at. What I did was I scaled through and I'm looking at the price range of 400 to 800, and I'm looking at specifically 4 bedrooms and above, and where they also have at least 3 full baths and at least a 2-car garage. Now, there's some interesting finds, and I want to walk you through some of these floor plans just to show you from a buyer's perspective what an agent would look at and what a seller might be able to look at as well, and some of the things that an agent looks at when they're pulling up your listing. Okay, and so we're just going to walk through this. What I'm going to do is start at the lowest price point and go all the way up to the highest and just show you several of these and give you a taste of what Blue Springs looks like with those specific criterias. So there's one specific property that I wanted to show you, and it is the lowest priced home in Blue Springs. That's a story and a half and at least 4 bedrooms, 3 full baths. And it's priced at $424,900. And this is the property. And I wanted to just pull this up. It's got 3,300 square feet on it. And this basement is not finished. So you'll at least have the primary bedroom on the main floor. And sometimes you will have actually another bedroom on the main floor. And a lot of times this is a really great feature because sometimes if there's, say, 5 bedrooms or more, sometimes even 4 bedrooms or more, you can have 2 bedrooms on the main level. So a lot of times when people are downsizing, they will opt to do a story and a half floor plan and bring their parents in to live in that separate bedroom on the main floor. And it's a really great floor plan, in my opinion, for people who are downsizing or people who, maybe have teenagers and those teenagers will be upstairs, and, whether or not you are cohabitating with your parents or whatever. So there are certain aspects of things that I look for when I am looking at a story and a half. I actually live in a story and a half. I love it. And the floor plan is so important to me at my stage in life. So this specific one also does not have a finished basement. Now, I will say this, that a reverse story and a half is another floor plan that we will look at later on. But a reverse story and a half is where you've got the primary bedroom on the main level, but instead of the extra bedrooms being upstairs, they are downstairs in the basement. Some people prefer that, some people don't. And it's always guaranteed that if you have a reverse story and a half, you will have a finished basement, but you won't have that second floor. This one is a story and a half. It does not have a finished basement, and it's still priced at $424,900. And it is in Country Club Gardens, which is an older subdivision. This is built in 1974, but I just wanted to show you some of the pictures of this. Now, it does not have a front driveway. Some of them have like a circle drive where it's really convenient for people to get out of their house or get out of their car and move into the front of the home. And so a lot of times that's a really convenient aspect to a story and a half, because you're actually helping your parents live with you, or have this be your forever home. But that's where the garage comes into play. Now, I will say this, that I did notice that this property probably has all of its original wallpaper, and it is not just one room. We are seeing that the wallpaper is all through the property, and the window treatments are also matching the wallpaper. So if you are wanting a property that needs some of your own updates to it, this might be a good option for you to look at. You can see that wallpaper was very popular then. And also some of the original cabinetry is here. I do love that it has an updated stove, and it looks like the dishwasher is also updated. So those are nice features. But looking at some of the other things, like the size of the kitchen, is it updated? Does the date of the age of the home comply with what your needs are? And does the style of the home contribute to what you're wanting? And so this is just some of the pictures that I look at when I'm looking through that. Obviously, there is some dated aspects to this property. It's also vacant and not staged. And so when you're bringing in staging things, that might change this a little bit. But this is one property to consider, and it's also got a 2-car garage on it. The good thing about this is that it's very spacious, and having 3,300 square feet in the main level as well as the upstairs is something that is a good asset to that. So I wanted to just share this one with you. This is the least expensive one of the Blue Springs story and a half property. And, if I were looking in this price range, it might be one that I would consider, because the fact is, even though it's outdated, you can add your own flair and bring some of your own specific things to the property. Now, if we're going to move into the $500,000 range, this is where it bumps up into the 5-bedroom, 4-bath home. This does have a 3-car garage, and it has 2,000 more square feet on it. So it's got 5,300 square feet. And as a buyer, you want to know those kinds of things. Now, this also, it not only has a 3-car garage, but it also has a finished basement, and it's a walkout. Now, I will say this about walkouts. Walkouts tend to add a little bit more value to the property. So does that 3-car garage. And so you look at things like that. It's also, a green space in Rock Hill. Well, let's look at some of the pictures. Now, I will say this, that I don't know who took the photos of this picture. The front 2 pictures seem to be a little small. Maybe they had to compress them when they were updating them, so they are a little small versus some of the other photos that are on here. I do love that this has a separate dining room, and I love that it's very close to the kitchen, which is really nice. And I love that there's the hardwood floors and some of the pillars. So we're talking, it added $100,000. You're getting a 5th bedroom, you're getting an extra full bathroom. And from a buyer's standpoint, you want to decide on what's important to you. The other thing too is you want to look at the yard and the lot. So I think we'll look at that as well. But look at the kitchen. The kitchen is a lot bigger. So there is some aspects to this from a buyer's standpoint that you'll want to definitely take in consideration. Also too, in this price range, sometimes you're going to see a full walk-in pantry, and then other times you won't. For the most part, you won't. But I do love the fact that you have a mudroom off of this. And this is another feature. If I were in this price range, this is probably one of my favorite ones in this price range, just because of the aspect of the kitchen and the built-ins and the features to this property. Here's the mudroom. It also has the laundry on the main level. Now, I will say this, that when you're looking at story and a half, a lot of times you will have the primary bedroom on the main level. But the reality of it is there are some times where the laundry is not on the main level, it's actually in the basement. So you'll have to make that decision if that's an important feature that you want to consider. I love too the fact that it's got this sitting room and some things that add to that property. Now, when we're looking at, let's scan through this. These are just some neat features about the property. I believe that this is in the basement, and it's their home office, so it's got some extra room, which is really, really nice. So again, there's some small pictures in here which I don't understand, but backyard is also a really great feature. And the fact that they have a fence on there is also really good. So they do have some value added. I love the fireplace down in the basement and the way that it's designed. I do like, too, the fact that there are, there's greenery on the other side, so you're not backed up to someone else. And when you're looking at properties like that from a buyer's standpoint, these are features that you'll also want to take into consideration because you will want to know what the resale value is. So the reason why I say that is because a lot of times when I am out showing properties to buyers and they fall in love with a property, but it's on this massive busy street, my fiduciary responsibility to a buyer is to not just find a good property and be able to share with them, some of the things that they might find in an inspection report or look at comps, but also to share with them that they're not buying a property for the now, although yes, that is important. You want to look at a property for the futuristic, like how is it going to be when you go to sell that property. So when I'm talking to buyers, I'll say, okay, what are your questions about this property? Because the immediate questions that they have or the immediate concerns that they have are going to be the same concerns that in the future a buyer walking through that property is going to have. And so when you are a buyer and you're walking through the property, if you see some red flags or have some concerns, those are things that are going to possibly pop up when you try to sell it. And you as a seller, if you are getting ready to sell your home, think about some of the things that you were thinking about when you were walking through your property and buying it. And those are things that are going to actually come up most likely again. So this is a seller's disclosure, and buyers, if you are new to seller's disclosures, you might not necessarily know what these are, but this is a document. It's 8 pages long here in Kansas City. And it's a document that sellers fill out for every single sale. And this document asks questions like, how long have you lived here? Do you still occupy the property? Because sometimes somebody owns the property, but they don't actually live there. And that can make a difference in how they fill it out, to be honest with you. But it'll ask all kinds of questions from the drainage to how old the roof is and how many layers are on the roof, and if there has been any termites at all, and are there any leaks or movements on the structural foundation of the property? Does it have a sump pump? Are there any plumbing issues? What kind of plumbing is in the property? How old is the HVAC system and the water heater? What kind of electrical systems are there? Is there any hazardous conditions that you need to be aware of? And it also talks about the HOA and who the contact is for that. So these are things that you'll want to take a look at when you're reading through and learning about the property that you are considering. And then I like page 7 the best, I think, honestly, because it gives a kind of an overall scope of what is staying with the property, whether the washer and dryer are staying, or if there's a refrigerator that is staying, or, is the pool table staying, and any other aspects to the property that you might want to know about and to be aware of. And so that is part of looking at these properties. This one here that we looked at has only been on the market for 2 days. And so sometimes that can actually make a difference between what kind of offer that you make when you're looking at this. But this is absolutely one of my favorite in this price range, in this city, and in this area. Moving on to the $600,000 price range for a story and a half in Blue Springs. This property is absolutely so fun, and it's been on the market for a couple of months, but I wanted to show you some things about this property that really make this property kind of stand out, in my opinion. It sits on about 1.89 acres. And that in and of itself is unique in the sense that when you are looking at properties in the suburbs, sometimes it's really hard to find property on acreage when you're in like Blue Springs, Lee Summit, Overland Park, Shawnee, Olathe. You have to kind of go outside of, the outer skirts even of the subdivisions. And this is really unique property. It's got a barn with electricity, got 2 garage spaces, but it's updated. And I love that there's some updates to it that make this quaint and lovely. Now, I will say that you are looking at an updated property that's on acreage, and so some of your dollars spent are going to be for those purposes. But it also has on the acreage a fully stocked pond, which is fantastic. And then it's got this like little greenhouse. And so if I were in this price range and loved this floor plan, this would be one of my favorite properties that I would want to consider. Look at how quaint this is. It's so fantastic. The one drawback that probably would be something that I would definitely advise my clients on is the fact that it's sitting right up against a railroad track. So sometimes when properties are on the market and they're sitting on the market, there is potentially a reason why it is. So I would venture to say that even though this is a remodeled home and it's in my favorite floor plan, I'm not sure that I would buy this house. I don't know. It is for someone. I can say that because there is a history of purchase on this property, but there's some things that you would definitely want to know about, because just like what I said before, those concerns that pop up when you are looking at properties, those same concerns are going to be present when you go and try to sell the house. And so if this does not concern you, then, it would be a matter of you finding that unique buyer that it would not concern as well. But as far as this property is concerned, it looks fantastic. They've done a great job of remodeling and done a great job of staging it and getting it ready for the market. And the pictures look great. And the aspects of this are fantastic. Now, here is the walkout basement, which is also another great aspect to this. So there's a lot of great features to this property, and the basement looks very big. And then also too, the basement, part of the basement is left unfinished because it's got this workspace that is fantastic, to be honest with you. So there's a lot of great aspects to this house. Now, the house alone is a little bit smaller than the 500, I think it was 550 priced house that we just looked at. It's 1,000 square feet, or a little more than 1,000 square feet less. So you're talking 4,000 square feet on this. And, you definitely want to take a look at this, but also understand where it sits location-wise. There are 2 bedrooms that are upstairs. There's some aspects even to negotiating because the sellers are open to updating it even a little bit more. So let's move on to the last price range that I wanted to share with you, some things that I wanted to look at. This price range is price point that I focused on today, but the price is $779,900. This has been on the market for 200 days, and it's a 5-bedroom, 4-bath home, and it's 4,600 square feet, 4,652, and it sits on 1 acre. So I want you to compare it a little bit to the $500,000 property that sat on the 1.89 acre and just see. So this has got 2 garage spaces. And the interesting thing about this is, yes, it's a quiet retreat. It's got biking trails and it's in top rated schools. All of them are with Blue Springs. But look at this property here. This is the front of it. Now it does have a pool. This is one of those controversial things where you as a buyer are going to have to decide on whether or not you feel that that is part of your real estate goals to have a pool. I have a buyer right now that absolutely wants a swimming pool and loves the fact that pools are a part of some of the properties that are out there. But then there's some buyers that really don't want to mess with swimming pools. The kitchen is fantastic in this, and I will say that look at this gas range and just the unique brickwork that is done in this property. I love the dining area. I love some of the other built-ins. I love the laundry room, some of those features. But again, what exactly are your goals for this? So this would be another one of my favorite properties that I would want to look at as a buyer in this price range. The aspect of the basement even and having, you know, the bar and the kitchenette and what have you in there is so fantastic. And so the pool, here's a picture of the pool. Obviously it's was open then, but it's one of those things where I would say it looks fantastic. This specific property is unique in the sense that it's got storage as well, and it's got another bedroom down in the basement as well, which is great because when you are looking at properties like this and you have a finished basement and you've got a place for guests to go, this is something that you would want to consider if you're wanting this size of a property. So it is another walkout basement, which I do like. Right now, I live in a property that does not have a walkout basement, and it is something that I kind of might want to require that in my future. So anyway, when you're looking at something like this and, you know, you are a seller and you're looking at homes that are out on the market that are competing with you, look at just the overall scope, not just the pictures. Look at the overall scope. And as far as like the seller's disclosure, there are quite a few things to look at when you're looking at a seller's disclosure. When I'm looking at this, you know, they've only lived in this property for about a year and a half and they're already selling it, which makes me wonder why that is. But they haven't owned it for very long. They've never occupied the property. It looks like they probably just purchased it and updated it for investment purposes. And so the sellers don't have a lot of live-in knowledge. They only have the investment part of it. But, you know, this is something to consider too, is they have no idea how much, you know, how old the roof is. Even though there's no leaks, these are things to look at when you are a buyer and when you are considering things. Then also too, you know, some people will say, well, wait a second, I'm looking at this property and my fireplace is really important to me. They've disclosed that the gas fireplace in the master bedroom is operational, but the other fireplaces have not been checked. And so you as a buyer are going to want to know that because you want your inspector to actually do the inspections and understand where you're coming from with this. The other thing too is that when you're coming to the HVAC age, again, you're going to want to really hone in on the age of them. And when somebody says that they're unknown, you'll want to then look at when it was last serviced and who serviced it. And you could realistically call this company and say, hey, look, you serviced this property on this date or on this month. Can you give me any kind of details because I'm considering purchasing it and I would like to be aware of, you know, what the history is of that. But, you know, looking through these seller's disclosures is really important. Another thing about the pool is that along with a whole house inspection, there is a pool and spa disclosure. Now, the fact that they're putting unknown on a lot of these things on here makes you want to actually have a pool inspection done. So these are things just to consider when you're purchasing a home and when you're looking at different properties throughout these areas. So I just wanted to share with you the differences between a $440,000, story and a half that's 4 bedrooms, and what a $779,000 property in Blue Springs, story and a half, at least 4 bedrooms and at least 3 bath homes are, and what kinds of things to look at when you're considering some of these. And as a seller, you want to go in and ask your agent to send you some comparables, like what are other buyers looking at and what are other buyers in this price point going and seeing that are going to compete with me. And as a buyer, you want to see what an agent sees and look for some of those things while you're looking. And hopefully this gives you a really good understanding of the whole entire aspect of purchasing a property. And I'm going to dive deeper into more types of properties right from our MLS and let you see what is actually out there. And if you have a favorite floor plan and you are looking for this floor plan in a specific city and you want me to actually analyze that, I certainly can. And if you're a seller and you have a seller, and you're looking to put your house up on the market and you want me to analyze some of your competition, I can certainly do that. Put that in the comments below and we can do this even live or however you want me to do it for you. But that is the scoop. I just wanted to go through a few of the properties that are available in this price range and with this specific floor plan in the city of Blue Springs. And again, I will scope out other areas as well. If you found this video helpful, give it a thumbs up and be sure and subscribe to my channel. And also too, my contact information is below in the description. And if you want to talk to me about your futuristic real estate goals, then be sure and click on the link. It goes right to my calendar, and on my calendar you can set up an appointment for your availability and we can start discussing your real estate goals from a futuristic standpoint, whether that is in a week or in a year. You might as well go ahead and start getting started with the conversation and the dialogue. So that is what I wanted to go through with you today. And again, my contact information is in the description below. Be sure and subscribe to my channel as we walk through properties here in the Kansas City area. And as always, to buy or sell, call Anita Cordell, #AnitaHome.